Hi, my name is Amalini. I'm really bad at this public speaking thing, so I apologize for if I start to rush through this. So I was asked to kind of talk about how I use Instagram and how I use Instagram to kind of tell stories. Um, so yeah, if I mean I kind of asked my friends what do you reckon people would come expecting, and they were like, oh, tips on how to do this and how to do that. But I'm just going to share a couple of experiences of using the app and like the stories that like I don't know, let's just see. So basically, we are like a country that loves telling stories, right? Like, the kids like, oh, we have like chronicles going to like centuries back, and like we have relatives who just love talking and just don't stop like exchanging stuff like that. But in the larger scheme of things, like, okay, oh my god, okay. While we do love stories, I do think that Sri Lanka is kind of where like masters of keeping out details in stories that could possibly compromise, us. We hide things like the way women are treated in this country, like the appalling way women are treated in this country. We hide the fact that we have very low respect for the environment. We tend to hide like struggles of vulnerable communities. All of this is generally under like feeds of gorgeous landscapes and like chic urban lifestyles and stuff like that. Now, the thing is, if you're missing out on, like, if you're only telling someone the part of like pieces of a story and they're not really seeing the whole thing, it's got a kind of a wider, it's got a ripple effect, because you start to misinterpret or build up preconceived notions of people and communities that are wrong and that can possibly have more disastrous effects than just you not knowing something. That's where stereotypes, prejudices, and things like that come from. I think this is why there's quite a lot of distrust towards the mainstream media today, because they're kind of notorious for like cherry picking and writing catchy stories as opposed to what makes like a meaningful story. So, for example, like this one, we see photos of like the Colombo skyline and how fast it's changing, and this apartment, that apartment, lifestyle, massive malls, and all that. But how often do we at the same time talk about people who lost their homes for someone else to gain this shiny new lifestyle? And we see tourist board promotions of gorgeous beaches like this, which we do have, that's the thing. But do we also know that the tourism industry and the rapid developments in the last few years have kind of adversely affected vulnerable communities, especially in areas like this where you market it as previously untouched due to the conflict, stuff like that. Right. So it comes down to who does the responsibility fall to tell these stories or make sure that we're seeing the whole picture at the same time. That would come down to people like us who are on social media, hashtagging, posting, blogging, stuff like that. So like in a time where the language of our immediate environment is confusing, like say in local politics, or divisive in like the larger scale of things, this band, that band, it kind of comes down to us to show, maybe just to each other, to like the few followers we have on whatever platform, and hopefully eventually everyone else, like again like a ripple effect, that there are more layers to to an issue, to a country, to a community, and stuff like that. And this is something we are hoping to do through our Insta meets, and the latest one, which is happening on Sunday in Negombo, which is happening on Negombo, to kind of encourage local Instagrammers, photographers, artists, people who have that visual kind of eye and curiosity, to use their creativity and their unique perspectives to do justice to the stories that Sri Lanka has to tell. So I'm not going to give advice and stuff, but I'm just going to like share a thought with you. And I'm not saying that like I execute all these principles kind of perfectly as well. I always tell people how I'm learning all the time from the people whose work I see on the app. There are such amazing photographers and storytellers on like Sri Lankan storytellers on Instagram, and go and seek the stories that matter beyond the photograph and beyond the likes that your photograph is going to get, because it's that contributes to your understanding of people, to like side of your country. Like there are so many aspects of this country that none of us are still in touch with, that because that connection helps us to be a little more empathetic to people. And like when we do that, when we share that go, people who see it and absorb it, hopefully it'll change their perspective a little bit as well. I don't really have a process of framing stories as such, and it all comes down, I guess, to where the place that you are and like your relationship to it, and to make sure that the people there are comfortable with you, and with you photographing them. That's why people ask me, how come you don't take like your DSLR out a lot via all your photos with your phone? I've noticed that like there are some places you take out a camera, it automatically changes the way people perceive you, and it's like for some people like they're like, whoa, it's a big thing. Whereas like a phone, like that doesn't mean you go sneakily taking pictures of people all the time, but like it helps. It's a little less jarring for some people, some communities, than like a DSLR camera would be. This is the most important thing for me, because like the last thing you want to do is for your subject or the person who's still trying to capture to kind of feel thrown off, kind of thing. We see kind of as of late these initiatives that use these hidden stories, these places, as like a backdrop for artistic effect and stuff. And people will justify it as saying, at least we're giving some attention to something, it's better than nothing. But the truth is that we can't really get away with saying that anymore. Like you can't just token actions in the long run, and like it's not going to work. And if there is no meaningful exchange between the person going there, the photographer, the journalist, the artist, designer, and the people and the community that you're visiting, it's a bit unfair on your subjects, right? And it comes down to what you prioritize. Like, are you going there for the photograph, or are you going there for the story? Because they're two entirely different things. So I've been told over the more I've been using Instagram, people are like, oh, the pictures you post are so sad, and all these people's struggles, and you say all these people will be like, why do I want to go to Sri Lanka with all these, you're jeopardizing the tourism industry. I do agree that some of the stories aren't particularly rosy, like this one here, but I do believe that, I don't know, I know there are people, like there is a whole industry built out telling this, the marketing the beautiful side of Sri Lanka, but I do think, I believe personally in capturing life as it is, and at the same time, the hope and the resilience that persists despite difficulties, and despite the hand that a lot of people in this country have been dealt with. In that vein, I'm really thankful when people come up to me and they say that something I've shared helped them see things a little differently, or helped with a little perspective. And what's most important along the way, like there are sometimes when you might like be traveling, or you're on an assignment and you're in some little village somewhere, or even in like the back roads of Colombo, and you stop and you're having a conversation with someone, and you just kind of ask, is it okay if I take your photo? And like they thank you at the end of it, because they're like, thank you for like coming and seeing me, thank you for spending some time, thank you for can I see the picture that you took? Because for a lot of these people, not only in like say previously conflict affected areas, but in Colombo, in the metropolis itself, they feel that their voices aren't being heard on the regular, or that like in this whirlwind that is like politics and international affairs and stuff like that, that their stories they're forgotten, kind of thing. And I won't exchange like those experiences have been really important to me. So yeah, that's my rant done. Yeah, thank you.